same page, you know, most of these, well, all of them here on the front are either in slope-intercept form, or it's like a y equals a constant or x equals a constant. Okay, so I made sure I gave you guys one that was in slope-intercept form where the slope is positive. So with positive slope, where do we go again? We're going to go up and right, at least to start with. Okay, the +1 is our starting point. That's our y-intercept. So you always want to make sure you plot that on the y-axis. So I start here at the +1, and then as long as I have room, I'm going to keep going up to right 3 until I run out of space. So up to right 3, you should be able to do that twice. And then I would expect you guys to go back to your starting point, and instead of going up and right, we're going to go down to left 3 and then down to left 3. Okay, then just connect your points, and like I keep asking you guys, please make sure that you extend those edge to edge. Put arrows on the ends. Good with number 1. Is everybody okay?
No.
Me either. All right, number 2, when it's y equals a constant, what kind of line should this be? This should be a horizontal line. Okay, and because it still starts with the letter y, that constant is still your y-intercept. So you still want to plot that first on your y-axis. And then knowing that there is no x term, since there is no x term, that means that we have a slope of 0. Okay, that's how I know it's horizontal. If there is no x, that's a 0 slope, which means it would be a flat line. So you just want to take your ruler. That's the only kind of graph, this one and the x equals, only type of graph where you only have to plot one point, because then you can just follow the grid line. So if it were me and I were the one taking the quiz tomorrow, I would probably show, at least like on your page of notes, I would at least make note of which ones are your horizontal and which ones are your vertical, because obviously there's going to be one or both of those on your quiz. And then maybe some other note you make is about positive slope is always going to go upright, and then negative slope is going to go how? Down right. Okay, so I'm going to start at the +3 on the y. And then, again, I'm just going to keep going down 1, right 2 until I run out of room. So down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2. So you can do that a total of 3 times. And then go back to your starting point, switch both directions. We're going to go up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2. So you can do that one 3 times. Good? Just make sure, even if you guys were done with the whole thing, you need to check it. Like, you need to make sure you're looking up here and checking what you've already done, so that way you know if you did it right or not.
The vertical was undefined, right?
Yes. Good? Okay, then number 4 is the only type where it's going to start with x equals, and if it's x equals a number, then again, you're going to plot this first, but this time you're plotting it on the x-axis. It's the only time you plot a point on the x-axis. Okay, so I'm going to plot, or put my first point here at the +5. And because it starts with x equals, what kind of line is this one? This is your vertical. So then as soon as you plot that, just put your ruler down and draw your line straight up and down following the grid line. So I'm going to make some notes right here. I don't know how many of you guys are actually going to make a page of notes for tomorrow, but I don't know why you wouldn't. I'm just going to put things on here that I think would help you. Okay, so if it's a positive slope, we always start by going upright. Obviously, once you run out of room, you'd switch them both and go down left. For the negative slope, we always start down right. So then if you run out of room, you're going to go up and left. Y equals just a number. That would be your horizontal line. And X equals a number would be your vertical line. I think those are the 4 things that are going to be most beneficial to you when it comes to graphing lines that look like this, you know, that are in slope-intercept form or are just like number 2 or number 4. Obviously, when we turn the page, we're going to get some that are in standard form. I would definitely, on my page of notes, write an example of how to take standard form and put it into slope-intercept form. Is everybody okay with the first page? Oh, can you see that? Yeah, because your page of notes is supposed to be done on a sheet of paper, front side only. Like, you cannot use this review. So any notes you make on here, you might, yeah, make sure you just put it on a sheet of paper for tomorrow.
And we're allowed to use that, correct?
What'd you say?
We're allowed to use that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using the same sheet this entire term.
Just adding to it.
Yeah, trying to like learn it all small.
Okay. All right. Then, the reason I put number 5 on here, it is slope-intercept form, so it's in the form that we like it in. I just put this one on here because it's a whole number slope, and I know on your quiz there's one that's a whole number. So you just have to remember that if it's whole, what do I put underneath? Put a 1 underneath it. And then this one's positive. I don't know if the one on your quiz is positive or negative, but you know what to do when it comes to like positive slope. We're going to go up 3, right 1. We just want to start at the positive 2 and then just start counting up 3, right 1. I can only do that once. So then I'm going to switch both directions. I'm going to go back to my starting point and I'm going to go down 3, left 1. You should be able to do that twice. So you should end up with 4 total points. And I always try to tell people, after you plot your points, knowing that this is a positive slope, our line should be going uphill. So before you even connect them, if your points had been going this way, you know that you did something wrong, because with a positive slope, it should be going uphill, not downhill. All right, then for 6 and 7, these are the 2 that you are going to take standard form and turn it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to show my steps underneath the graph just because there's not much room up top. What is step 1? Move the x term, right? So if this is a positive 3x, we should be subtracting 3x from both sides. Okay, so step 1, move the x term either with adding or subtracting. It just depends on what the original x was. Like this one was positive, so I subtracted it. If it had been negative, I would have added it. Okay, so I bring down positive 2y, and I bring down the equal sign. When you guys get over here to these two terms, those two terms cannot be combined. Like, you can't make that a negative 9 of any kind. These two you have to keep separate since one has an x and one doesn't. And I always put my x term first. Make sure you pay attention to signs. This says negative 3x, and that says it's a negative 6. So you want to make sure, even though I'm switching the order of them, you still have to keep them both negative. Okay, so that's step 1. What is step 2? Divide by the number in front of y, right? So in this case, we're going to divide all of the pieces by the 2. I'm just trying to like write out your steps for those of you who are going to put this on your notes. Step 2, divide all terms by, okay, if I say the coefficient of y, you guys all know what that means? Coefficient is the number attached to y. Okay. By the, well, I'll just say the number in front of y. Technically, it's called the coefficient. So if you've never heard that term before, numbers in front of letters that are attached, the number itself is called the coefficient. So we're going to divide everything by the 2. That now gives us y by itself. And then you just need to make sure you take your time over here, because the first term is going to be our slope. Pay attention to signs. I only see one negative, which means it's going to stay negative. If this were negative and this were negative, I'd turn it positive, okay? Will 3/2 reduce? No, so we're going to leave it as 3/2 x. That x can either go up top with the 3 or next to the fraction bar. It is not allowed to be on the bottom with the 2. Now for the next term, this should be a whole number if you are graphing it. Okay, negative 6 divided by 2? Negative 3. So once you do those two steps, you should have an equation that looks like all the others we've already graphed. You've got your slope, you've got your y-intercept, so then we'll just graph that. When is the only time you do not have to do step 2? If this number in front of y is a 1, you don't ever have to divide by positive 1. Like if it just says y equals, there's no division step that needs to be done. Okay, so going back up to the graph, I don't know if I'll be able to squeeze all this on there. I'm going to start at the negative 3 on the y-axis. And since our slope is negative 3 over 2, where do I go? Down, right, down, right?
I'm in the middle of doing the second.
Okay. So I'm going to go down 3, right 2. You can only do that once. So then now I need to switch direction and go up 3, left 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I can do it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 2 more times? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I'll show you. Yeah, you can get a total of 5 points there. I hear a screaming child. At least that's what I think it is. I don't know. Cat, screaming child, something. I think the screaming child makes more sense in our building than a cat, but you never know. All right, any questions for number 6? Okay. Number 7. Whenever I see equations like this, if one or both letters don't have numbers in front, I like to always put a 1 there. Just because you need to know that when you're moving it, we are moving a 1x. Oh, let's see, we've got 1x minus 4y equals negative 4. So step 1, how do I move a 1x? Subtract 1x from both sides. Now you just need to be careful with this. This 4 is technically a negative 4y, so don't forget to bring that sign down with it. And then again, these two cannot be combined. I just switch order, so I do negative 1x minus 4. And then what would step 2 be? Divide by negative 4.
What happened? They always bring one.
Yeah. All right. You have two negatives. Two negatives will make a positive, and 1/4. If your top number is a 1, it can't get any smaller than that. So that one is definitely not reducing. It's just going to stay 1/4 x. Just make sure it's positive 1/4. And then as far as your y-intercept goes, a negative 4 divided by negative 4, positive 1.
It's okay, my ADHD was on the same thing.
Okay, now we have a positive slope, so we're going to start at positive 1 on the y-axis. And then with a positive 1/4 slope, we're going up 1, right 4. Can only do that once. So then I'm going to go back to my starting point and go down 1 and left 4. Which you can also only do that one once. So those 2 pages, those 7 problems make up the majority of your quiz. I mean, that's what takes the most work. Everything on the next page, front and back, they're way easier. It's just a matter of looking at an equation, telling me what the slope is, what the y-intercept is. We will have to do some work to find the x-intercept. And then the word problem at the bottom, you're just setting it up in slope-intercept form. They give you the 2 numbers you need. You just need to decide which one gets the x and which one's the constant. Part 2 is a plug and chug, and then on the back page, it's just like writing an ordered pair, plotting a point, and finding the ordered pair, I think. So the majority of your points are coming from the graphing page. So you make sure, if nothing else, you study that graphing page the most before you come to class tomorrow. Is everybody good? Ready for me to turn the page? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we have this equation, y equals 4x plus 5. When you have slope-intercept form, you are given 2 pieces of information. The slope and the y-intercept. So which one's my slope?
4x.
Just a 4, right? You can write it as 4/1 if you'd like to. You don't have to because it's not like we're graphing it. Just whatever you do, do not put 4x. Slope is a number. It's the number that's attached to x. And then the y-intercept is the 5. And so since this is the y, that would go second, which makes what go first? A 0, always. When you are looking for the y-intercept, your x is 0. Okay, so now when we go to find our x-intercept, when we go to find this, y is 0. Yes? If y is 0, then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to plug a 0 in right there. So I'm going to take y out, put 0 in its place, and we're going to just solve for x. It's a two-step equation. Step 1, subtract the 5. So we have 4x equals negative 5. And then what? Divide by 4. Now, I'm the type of person that typically, I usually leave my answer as a fraction, but I'm assuming most of you probably typed it in and got a decimal, negative 1.25, right? So I left mine as negative 5/4, but you can always write it in decimal form, which is negative 1.25.
Oh, but you can still write it as a fraction.
However you want. I prefer the fraction. The reason a lot of people don't prefer fractions is because they don't want to have to think about does it reduce or not. You know what I mean? For me, reducing fractions is no big deal. I mean, I've been teaching for 20 years. It's not a big thing. It doesn't reduce, but what I'm saying is like if your answer had been negative 10 over 8, you can't leave it as negative 10 over 8. I'd have to reduce it to negative 5 over 4. So some people would just prefer to type it in with the division. See what I'm saying? Got it? Okay. Somebody had asked before, well, if you can get decimals here. You're always allowed to get decimals for intercepts because you guys know as well as I do, on a graph, is the line always going to cross each axis at a whole number? Well, not necessarily. If it's one that I'm going to have you graph yourself, I would make sure it's a whole number, right? But when you're just solving for an x-intercept, it doesn't matter whether it's whole, positive, negative, or a decimal. So you just put whatever form of that x value you put. I put negative 5/4, comma 0. You could have negative 1.25, comma 0. But these two are given, so those are only going to be like 1 point each. This one is going to be worth a couple points just because you have to do some work for it. All right. The word problem. An electrician charges a fee of $75 to make a house call. He also charges $40 per hour of labor. Write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent how much the electrician charges for a house call based on the number of hours of labor. So X, look right here what this says. X represents the number of hours. So it would make sense that whatever number gets attached to the letter X should be the per hour charge, right? What's the per hour? 40. What's the 75? I mean, that's just the constant, right? It's not going to change. So the 75 is just the B value, the y-intercept. That is your starting amount. Like if this guy showed up to your house and did no work, he worked 0 hours, he's still getting paid. What's he getting paid? $75 just for going, right? I guess I shouldn't say he. Oh no, it did say he. Could have been a she. Could have been.
I have a question about these words. So I noticed that they've always been like positive numbers. Is there a way that we'll get like negative 75? No.
No, not on these. These are all going to be like a per day, per minute, per hour, plus some starting fee. So these will always be plus. Okay, so then the next question says, what would the total cost be? Now, they were nice to you because they said, what would y be? So they're telling you to leave y in the equation. if the electrician worked for 4 hours, and they just told you that 4 is X. So I'm going to rewrite this right-hand side, but instead of putting an X right here, I'm going to plug in the 4 for 4 hours. And then all you guys have to do is let the calculator do the work for you. You know, yes, you have to do 40 times 4, but you can't forget to add that 75. And it is a total cost, so all you have to do is stick a dollar sign in front, and you should have gotten 235. And then whenever you're ready, turn it over to the back. This is too easy, isn't it? I feel like you guys are all looking at me like this was the easiest thing we've done.
Well, easier than last
All right, then on the back, okay, so you guys are going to see this again tomorrow. You guys could tell, like I just went in and used whiteout on your actual quiz just to change them. So this is exactly what yours is going to look like tomorrow, but you're not going to be finding these 3. You're going to be doing 3 other ones. But the first one says, tell what point is located for this ordered pair. So which point is at -4, 4? C. So -4, 4. So now you have to remember that we're not dealing with slope anymore. We're dealing with ordered pairs. So the first number is your X, then your Y. Remember, slope is always this way first, then this way. Now we're going the opposite. Now we're going left to right first, then up or down. Okay, so when we write the ordered pair for B, what did you guys put? Well, okay, the first number is 3. Hang on, let me get this down. So B is located at the 3 for the X, and then the -2 for the Y. So for those of you that put -2, 3, you're thinking slope. You're thinking Y, then X. You've got to do X, then Y as your ordered pair. And then all we have left to do is to plot a point. We're going to label it with the letter X, and it's going to be -3, -7. So starting at the origin, where do I go? Left 3, down 7. So it should be down here in quadrant 3. And that's it.